His family business is one of the most successful businesses in Charleston. And now, Herbert S. Fielding is hoping to replace Robert Ford in the South Carolina Senate on August 13th. I had a chance to talk with him for this special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. Well, Tuesday night, you and 6 other candidates actually debated for at least 90 minutes at Triton Technical College, debating issues related to this election. Tell me, when you look back at it, what grade would you give yourself?
I think I had a B+. I believe I did well. I practiced,
yes,
and I was prepared well. I had some good people in the team helping me, and the issues are pretty self-evident in this district. And the district is very diverse.
Oh, yes.
Some of our largest employers and biggest industries are in this district,
yes,
and some of our poorest people are in this district. So it takes a special person to want to try and get into that and make it better.
Yes, and you told the Postal Courier quote, "Politics is the art of accomplishing things." Let me ask you this. When you get to Columbia, what things do you want to accomplish?
Well, I think the first and foremost is that we need to increase funding for our education department, because it's affecting our ability to employ our youth, to train the youth, and to bring them to the jobs that exist in this district.
Yeah.
I also want to work on some of the geothermal energy sources that exist in our market. We're not taking advantage of solar energy like we should be. We should be allowing people and contractors to build houses that have energy efficient systems in them.
And so, I have asked many of these candidates this as well, and I'm going to ask you this too. But take me back to May 31st. Robert Ford just resigned from the Senate because of ethical allegations and health issues. I'm wondering, where were you when you heard the news?
I was working in the one stop in North Charleston,
Yeah,
helping people get jobs.
Right.
Mostly veterans. I was a veteran specialist at that time. It was an unexpected situation, I suppose, for Robert and for everyone else in the community. I went forward. I've always considered, I ran before,
sure,
and I've always considered the office, and,
yeah,
and it had been, Robert had been challenged on several occasions, and it proved to be unbeatable.
Yeah.
But at this point in time, with the open seat, I thought I might try my hand.
And having said that, you have been campaigning for weeks now, but tell me, how are you?
I'm tired.
Yeah, I bet.
But I'm very enthused, because
yes,
we've done well, considering the fact that 5 of the candidates have been outspent 10 times over by one candidate.
Sure.
We've put up a very good campaign. It's been clean. We stayed to the issues, and that's what I promised myself when I started in this. I wanted it to be, I wanted to remain on the issues and talk about the people of Senate District 42.
Yeah. And so you mentioned this earlier too, but you recently helped veterans get jobs here in the Low Country. As a veteran yourself, what was it like to help get those jobs to the veterans?
That's the most, I'm most proud of that, and I'm most satisfied with the work that I did, because
yes,
in 2012, our office was the largest and best office and had placed the most veterans in the state of South Carolina. We won the award for that.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, I think we owe something to the veterans, because
yes,
we promised these young people when they left us and went into harm's way that when they came back, we would support them and help them to get into meaningful and gainful employment again. So I feel that's one of the greatest accomplishments in my life.
Yes, as many people know in Charleston, your father was once a state senator for many, many years, and he was very powerful and successful in that particular position. Tell me, why do you want to follow in his footsteps?
Why would any child want to follow his father, especially the example that he's left for me? I think that what he did was a great sacrifice, and it was very honorable. The men that I'm following, the Esau Jenkins, Mr. Brown,
Oh yes,
Matthew Perry,
oh yes,
Quincy Newman, these are the people that I got my examples from. You have to give back to your community, and that's what I'm doing.
yes. And speaking of which, I read too that you actually, when you were a young kid, you went up to Columbia with your father to watch him at inside State House.
Yes, I did.
Tell me about that experience.
Well, that's part of the education that brings me to today. I was exposed to the legislature at 14 years old, basically when my 14 to 16. The legislature used to last longer into the summer.
Yes.
To have extensions, and I would go and interact with the House members when Daddy was in the House,
Okay.
after I had a job in Columbia, I interacted with the Senate to bring funds to my agency. I was a legislative liaison, so
Yeah.
I know the inside of the House and the Senate chambers. I know how they work, and I understand the political process in Columbia.
And as we sit here today, how is your father doing?
He's doing fine. He was 90 years old about 3 weeks ago. I'm still getting around,
Yes.
and he's active in this campaign.
That's what I saw with the letter that you guys sent to my house. Well, tell me
He
this.
demanded to send that.
Oh, is that
letter.
right?
Oh yeah, he had to get involved.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And you know, besides politics and you know, of course, serving your community, who is Herbert Fielding?
Who am I?
Yes.
That's a really hard question.
Okay.
I never thought about it. I think of myself as you know, the job I had, I guess, and then the person. I've always participated in politics in Charleston and in the community. Being in the business we were in, the service industry,
Sure.
I'm used to serving the community. So I guess I'm a regular guy.
Yes.
I'm just kind of, you know, I just have a particular set of skills that have been taught to me over time.
Yeah. And speaking of service, of course, everyone in Charleston knows that your family is successful with Fielding Home Funerals.
Small business.
Yeah, tell me, after so many years, how you guys been able to be so successful?
I think it's always basic in any kind of industry. You have to provide a product. You have to provide the service. And we have been lucky enough to have a loyal clientele.
Sure.
And we have tried to provide the very best service that we possibly can.
Yeah, and you have actually been, from what I read, a public servant for almost 30 years.
Yes.
Tell me, what memories hold in your mind of serving the community?
Well, I think that I started after school. I started as working for the Attorney General in child support, and I was good at it.
Oh, great.
Because I like to talk to the people that
Sure.
were involved in it, and that's how I was able to collect monies for the children. I left there and went to the Department of Labor, where I worked on conciliation. People had been terminated, and I went in and see if we could get a job back. So my public experience or my job experience has always been serving public.
Yes.
And that's what we do in our business. In the film group, we serve the public.
Yeah.
And anytime you're interfacing with the public, you need to give them the best product possible.
And as we talk about serving, obviously you're a Vietnam War veteran. I know it's very difficult to talk about, but can you share with me your memories of being in the war?
Well, I was in the Navy, so I was on an aircraft carrier, a very dangerous job on the flight deck. And I spent most of my time, like everybody else who was a serviceman, trying to make sure I got back home.
Sure.
Without getting killed.
Right.
And that, you know, the experience taught me a lot because I went both to Europe and I went to Asia, so I saw both sides of the world.
Yes.
And I moved back to Charleston because Charleston has a flair. Charleston has a mixed environment that I like.
Yes. And let's talk about your years at the College of Charleston. I'm wondering, who was Herbert Fielding as a college student?
Well, I was a vet student, so I had my GI Bill, which is why I went in the military in the beginning, to get GI Bill. I learned a lot. My professors, the college is an excellent institution. I would recommend it to anyone that is, you know, looking for higher education.
Yes.
And I think that as a student, I learned from the professors politics. I learned the theory of politics. I learned the practical side of politics from Herbert Fielding.
And you mentioned this earlier, but Charleston is home for you.
This is my home.
Talk to me about growing up here.
Oh, well, I mean, you know, like any other kid, I had a bicycle, and this
Yes.
was
All
the
Martian
biggest.
too?
Yeah, and it's the biggest playground you could ever want. I mean, it's sitting next to the ocean, so you can fish. It's an excellent place to grow up. I think it could be better, and I want to contribute to that.
Yes. Well, describe to me the following in one word: politics.
I think dialectics.
Yes.
That's what comes to my mind. The mixing of people and trying to come up with a common goal for groups of diverse people.
Community service.
One word. Payback.
Herbert Fielding.
Pretty good guy.
Yes.
That's not one word.
Oh no, it's all good for you. It's all good for you. Well, switching gears, let's talk about your family and your wife Ruby.
Yes.
Tell me, how did you two fall in love?
Well, we met in Columbia while working, and it grew from there. She's a the better half of me.
Oh, yes.
She's if you know, she's in finance. She's in accounting and that.
Yeah.
And that's one area where I'm not that good.
Okay.
So she really holds me up in that area.
Yes.
And she keeps me kind of
Grounded.
on the path. Grounded.
Yeah.
That's a good word. Grounded.
And you know, I also know that you have 2 children, right?
Yeah, well, she has a son and I had a son from
Okay.
prior marriage. So I have one boy of my own and then a stepson.
Yeah. For those people who don't know them, describe it.
Oh boy. Well, my son Stan is he's very eclectic. Tattoos, and he majored in film.
Oh,
and
great.
He's now building a Jeep.
Yes.
Cliff is probably more like his mother. He's more calculated
Sure,
and
sure.
Down to earth, hard-working kid.
Yeah. And you know, what's something else that people don't know about you besides politics and community service? Because you know, when you were coming up earlier, I noticed that you exercise a lot. Do you?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I've maintained a health club membership since the early 80s. I started in the military running and used to run 8 miles a day.
Oh, great.
I don't run as much anymore now. Now I swim.
Oh, great.
But you have to take care of your body.
Oh,
and,
yes.
and that's health-wise, I've been lucky enough to not have any serious problems with blood pressure or anything like that. So I'm going to keep exercising.
That is awesome. And you know, I can't let you go without me talking about your future. But you know, you've been successful in community service and in the military. What's the next chapter for you?
I'm looking at the Senate as a job because I'll be able to retire and go to the Senate if I'm elected, and this will be my second career.
Yes. Well, Herbert Fielding, was so great talking to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good to meet with you. Thank you for
Likewise.
the opportunity.
Oh, anytime.